Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men have asked me for the right words to say to be more attractive, desirable, and more of a leader. And I've found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines. Because at the root of a connected and affectionate relationship and being more effective and inspiring at work is your ability to influence others. But most often, influence is not gained or lost with words. It's from what I call the invisible factors. So I created a quick guide for you called 3 Ways Men Lose Influence at Work and with Women, so you can understand how these invisible factors work and what has women and colleagues both more inspired to say yes. I think you're also going to be surprised to find out the moment when your influence actually begins. So grab the guide for free at ShaynaJamesCoaching.com/3ways. That's ShaynaJamesCoaching.com/3 and the word ways, WAYS. Or you can text ALIVE to 44144. That's the word ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144. I hope you enjoy the guide and this episode. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm really excited to be here today to talk to some incredible guests who are in a relationship together. And we're going to talk about appreciation and gratitude as some of the cornerstones of a successful relationship and how you can use them, because a lot of people think of them as these kind of woo-woo or extraneous skills. And yet many people who work with couples and who do relationship work will tell you that if you're not feeling appreciated in relationship, there are going to be some serious problems. So Lisa and Chris, welcome. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. We're excited to share with your listeners. We really appreciate you having us on your show.
Yeah. Well, let me do a quick intro before we dive into our topic. So Lisa and Chris are soul purpose coaches, best friends, lovers, soulmates, husband and wife, and they both walk their talk, living fully in a deep, loving, sacred soulmate relationship after losing their beloved first soulmates to death and divorce. I didn't actually realize you both lost your first soulmates.
Oh yeah, it's a definite tragic story we got here.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to hear your story. So I got sidetracked. Let me finish this up and then you can dive right in. So, Lisa Nix Balthazar is an inspirational speaker, author, soul purpose coach, and co-founder of Believe International, Inc., a nonprofit, and also co-founder of the Heart of Manifestation retreat workshops. And her mission is to inspire a deeper appreciation and discovery of the power of love and healing through heart intelligence. And Chris Balthazar brings a varied depth of experience to his coaching abilities. He has a BA in philosophy and is an avid student of Eastern philosophy, Taoism, and Buddhism, graduate of the Landmark Forum advanced course, and also holds a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That one's a mouthful. So, yes. Well, tell us. Okay, so clearly you have a really interesting and heartful story. What happened? How did you guys meet, and how did you find each other after losing your soulmates?
You go first, honey.
Well, yes. So the story really does center on overcoming grief and loss and tragedy and perseverance, and really just believing in the power of positive affirmation. And both Chris and I have a different story of loss, and I'm going to let you pitched it over to me, but we have a lot of male listeners here, so I think it'd be really great for them to get the perspective of where you were. We did meet at Burning Man, and it was Chris's first time, my first time there. We came for very different reasons. And I think you can speak to the male listeners out there, kind of where you were in your mindset and what loss you had gone through when you arrived at that dusty, amazing place. Yes.
Sure. Okay. Sounds like fun. So, I was still going through a divorce. I'd been separated for several years and had been dating, but the divorce it was like a 5 year legal process. Kind of drew it out, and I just finished a what I thought was the ideal relationship. I decided I had but when I got separated, I had kids. I didn't really see another reason to ever get married again. What's the point? Why mess up a good relationship by ending up in a situation where you're arguing about, how the laundry gets done and whose turn it is to do dishes. Why mess that up? Why not
Sounds like you were pretty heartbroken and over it, and like.
Yeah, I was over it. But I'm still a sexually active male, so I didn't want to just completely be celibate either.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been dating, going on Match, and honestly, I had some very good experiences, on online dating. I guess I had it dialed in pretty well, and met a lot of very nice, attractive women. Had some fun, short-term connections. Finally, ended up in a relationship I thought was like the perfect relationship. Basically, it was just we'd get together about once a week or every other week, have a great date night and amazing sex all night, and then that was it. And didn't see her until the next week or two. And I thought, this is all I need. This is perfect. No strings, no complication. I could do this forever. And that lasted an amazing 8 months.
Uh-huh.
Until finally, she decided she wanted more, and she was getting more attached. And and who can blame her? That's relationships have to evolve,
Yeah.
And so then it got complicated and messy, and we broke up, and then we came back as friends and tried to have sex as friends, and it got messy. And finally, I was like, okay, that's it. I am done. No more women.
Now I'm really done.
I'm really done. I'm just, I was really, I'd been fantasizing if I didn't have kids, I was just going to go move to like Thailand and just be a monk and just be celibate. But I couldn't do that,
Can't do that with the kids.
So I was going to stay where I was, but I was just going to focus on my kids and my career and be celibate basically for 10 years or whatever until kids were growing, and then maybe think about dating again. And I was serious about that.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, especially having been through divorce myself and the complications I can get just being like, all right, that's it for now.
So long story short, a buddy of mine calls me out of the blue and is like, hey, what are you doing? And I was actually between jobs. I had a new job starting like in 3 weeks, but I was actually this rare time where I didn't have anything to do. And he's like, oh, you should come to Burning Man with me. I'm like, oh my God, Burning Man. Yeah, I know, sounds great, but freezing cold nights, burning hot days, desert conditions, crazy people, drugs. I don't think so. And basically he talked me into it. Every excuse I came up with, I don't have a ticket. I'll buy you a ticket. I don't have any costumes. I'll get you costumes. He's like, well, what are you doing that weekend? I was like, well, my big plan for that weekend was I was going to stay home and just clean out a file cabinet that I had.
Oh my God.
5 years. I was really looking forward to getting the files organized and getting a handle and throwing out all that extra paper. And he talked me out of staying home and cleaning up my file cabinet. So on the way up to Burning Man, we're driving, and I was like, look, man, listen, I don't want to meet any women, all right? I don't want to get hooked up. I don't want to get laid. I just want to hang out with you and party and have good times. Like, don't worry. He said, people come from all over the planet for this thing. The chances of meeting somebody and having a connection with a woman who lives anywhere near you are astronomical. So don't worry. So famous last words.
Yeah.
I was there for about 3 hours. And I'm sitting in a motorhome where he's like, hey, my friends are here. We're going to go out tonight. My friend Robin has an RV. We're going to meet up there. I'm like, okay. So I go. I sit down in this RV. Everybody's been, drinking and partying. They've been there for, days already, weeks. And they're on, they're very relaxed and very in the space. And I'm completely stone cold sober because it's already weird enough, and I don't know where I am. I don't know any of these people. So I'm just sitting there trying to, be chill and just kind of taking it all in. And in through the door bursts, 3 women all dressed to the nines in thetheir crazy Burning Man clothes and stuff like that. And they come in. And of course, all the guys are like all over them, like, just like magnets, hey, hey, you doing? Welcome, come here. And they're all kissing them and hugging them and making out. And I'm just kind of sitting there like, okay.
It's like you're in the middle of every man's dream. And at this point,
right. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like so not interested. I could care less, I'm not even really paying attention to them.
Yeah.
Um, and then one of them comes up to me, and basically I think she felt sorry for me. That was Lisa, because I was just sitting there, and all the other guys are getting, making out and getting kisses. I'm just sitting there, and she felt bad for me because I'm just sitting there. And so she says, "Well, I guess I would give you a kiss too," and just to be nice. And honey, you want to take it from there? Did I set you up well enough?
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. I think this is the dichotomy, the whole thing about this story is, I'm so glad he set that up, because whether you're a man or a woman listening to this, you can appreciate, just like you were doing, Shana, about when you're just done, and honestly, and I'll tell my story as quickly as I can, but the backstory, I was coming from a very, very different place. Ultimately, I ended up at Burning Man to take my husband's ashes, which was a really powerful reason to be there. And my history was that I met my first soulmate at the age of 16 in high school. We were born on the same day, same year. We were 2 hours and 20 minutes apart. His name was Keith. And we kind of knew we met the forever person, but at a very young age. And jump forward 27 years later, we're married. We have 2 daughters, one getting ready to go off to college, the other starting high school. An amazing, deep soulmate relationship. I mean, we were born on the same day. And he ended up being diagnosed with the worst kind of brain cancer, glioblastoma multiforme. And literally going into the emergency room the night that we finally did go in, and the doctor mentioned the word epi brain scan. He said, it may be blah, 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 all these different things. And the word cancer came out. And I can still remember when I tell this story that I just took a breath and held my breath, and I didn't hear any words he was saying after that. I just heard cancer, and 4 months later, after brain surgery, and some amazing miracles, which are part of, I have a book called Believe, a memoir, and these miracles that took place during his 4 months time are in the book, but a lot happened, but he was gone. And I literally put my head on his chest in life support and heard the last beating of his heart. And I honestly, what Chris didn't say is this woman that he was getting a divorce from, this was his everything. He knew right away. And there were times where he didn't want to be alive after, where he didn't really want to kill himself, but that feeling of how do I go on? He didn't mention that. I felt the same way, but I had 2 daughters and I have a great love of life. And honestly, in Keith's honor, I wanted to live life. So this next
this
part
is
of the
a powerful
story,
coming together, and you're in very different places. It sounds like, emotionally and psychologically, in some ways similar, but in some ways different.
very much so. What the underlying thing is that we share is that both of us, and I think most listeners out there, have had a time where you just have this very strong soulmate, deep connection, love, and for whatever reason, you lose it, or it's something you want and you've always wanted. So that
or you find, okay, we have a soulmate connection, and yet the reality of being a human being on planet Earth makes it really challenging.
Exactly. And so we teach that in Sacred Soulmates. We teach that people will come into your life. They can be a soulmate, but they're there for a lesson, a time, a season. And we're really teaching the tools of how to pull in and bring a relationship that is just full of grace and ease and is actually bigger than you. And that's kind of what the rest of this story will be bringing you to. So I know you understand that, Shana, and I appreciate that. So what happened was, I had been with one man from 16 till 42. So I set out on, when I did decide to date, there was an in-between man, and this man swept me off my feet. He was Prince Charming. My family, my children fell in love with him. We moved in with plans to marry. Jump forward 4.5 years later, he did not marry me. He started to pick me apart, and I went into a depression. He moved into another bedroom. broke it off with me. And then when he'd go out to sleep with this other woman, he started to see, while I stayed with his 16-year-old son,
Yeah.
he got engaged to her about 2 months after he broke it off with me.
Uh-huh.
So I kind of laugh when I say this, because honestly, it spun me into such a deep depression, and put in that equation for any man or woman, blank, 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 different things that create where you wonder if you can ever trust and ever love again.
Right.
You
And
know,
this does, I
men,
mean, this does set it up well, right? Where Chris is coming in also just like, okay, I'm done. You're in this place of depression. And right. So how did you guys get, and I'm imagining, like you said, these are the tools you teach people. How did you actually get from there in this dark place, dark night of the soul, to actually being open to each other?
that's the beautiful, beautiful part of this story. So what happened was, when I found out he was engaged, I kind of just wanted to crawl under the covers and never come out. I mean, it
Yes.
just resurfaced. My husband's death, my, the rug had been pulled out from underneath me basically twice now.
Yep.
And I made a choice, and we all have to make this choice. And I actually had a mentor, a woman that was a mentor to me, say, Lisa, go someplace that feeds your soul. And I pulled myself out of bed, and I drove down the Big Sur coastline with 4 windows down, the wind blowing in the sunroof, crying tears the whole way down to a place called River Inn, watching the sun sparkling on the water, and just crying and crying. And I sat there in the river. I didn't sit in the river. I sat on a chair in the river with my feet, the water going through, and wrote in my journal all day. And I wrote in large, bold letters eventually, I believe that someday I will have someone in my life that can embrace all the love in my heart. And I wanted to believe that, but I hated the couples walking by, because how could they have love? But it just that feeling. And I went into this little store after I'd spent the whole afternoon there crying. And there was this collection of candles. And the candles were they were beautiful colors. And on them were messages like prosperity, health, love, eternal love. And one of them that was eternal love, that had this black ink heart etched into it with thorns around it. Perfect analogy of love. Love is both painful and beautiful.
Beautiful.
And it had the words joy and compassion, but the words that really resonated with me was discovery of a soulmate. So I bought this candle, and for 2 years I went on this self and sexual exploration. I had never done that. I'd never been in my 20s. I really did so much educating and learning, and dated a tantra sexual healer. I mean, I had this amazing journey, and I never gave up on the fact that I really wanted to have a husband and a sacred soulmate, someone who could really embrace all the love in my heart.
Beautiful. Okay, so I want to hear Chris too. I want to hear, like, where are you? Where is Chris at this time? Like, are you also going through your own process of, this kind of doubt, and then opening your heart again? Or did that start to happen once you met Lisa?
No, that happened once I start to met Lisa, and that really gets into a concept of surrender that we can touch on. But I think, honey, you should wrap up.
I am. I'm at that point. So we're at about 90 seconds away from the miracle that happened.
Okay.
So you've been set up. So that I walked into this motorhome. I was one of those women. Yes, I felt sorry for him. No, I wasn't necessarily attracted to him. I was indifferent. And I thought, oh, I guess I'll give you a kiss. And I bent over. And what happened, Shana, was that when I gave him such an innocent kiss, I stood up, and my whole being, I just had this exhale that was, it felt like I had been holding my breath since I heard the word cancer, all those years before.
Wow.
Jump forward. Yeah. I mean, I never have experienced that. It wasn't like, oh, I got to jump in bed with you. It was this.
What do you make of that? Like, what do you make of that experience, and not even knowing what was happening? And it sounds like, it was this innocent thing. It wasn't like something that was planned or that you knew was going to happen.
It was so powerful. It was so powerful, Shana, because I had this intuitive soul knowing that when I stood up and I literally felt like I was exhaling from stale air down in there that was like pain and grief, I thought, oh my gosh, have I been holding my breath on some level for all these years? And I literally said, I need to give you another kiss.
Wait, okay, so Chris, what was your experience when you received the kiss?
Well, I was in heavy denial. I didn't want to feel anything. I was not in touch with any possibility there. However, I did notice that uncontrollably, almost unconsciously, somehow I ended up with my arm around her. And I remember spending a lot of the night, or the early part of the night, simultaneously in this internal battle. On one hand, I was like spending time with her and I was connecting with her, and then there was this part of me saying, "Why are you doing that? She's going to think you're interested, and you're definitely not interested. So you shouldn't be doing this." It was an internal battle that I fought for. In some ways, for weeks, even months into the relationship before I finally acknowledged to myself that, I was in something that was just obviously much bigger than I was.
So this is not a support for, you have to really open your heart and want it and believe in it before love comes. For you, it sounds like this was actually challenging a place that you'd gotten to of, this probably isn't going to work. It's not even worth it.
Yeah. She was, neither of us were what each other was looking for. I was not looking for, a sexy older grandma, which she was.
I was a young grandma, but I was still a grandma.
But she's 5 years older than me, right? Yeah. And it just wasn't like what I would have described to you necessarily. And she wasn't looking for a skinny vegetarian from Santa Cruz. Neither one of us were like the ideal model.
Right. Okay. Well, that's actually really good to know too, though, that in the story of finding each other, it wasn't like you checked off all these boxes on each other's, forms, like, oh yes, check, check, check. It's more like something happened in your soul and you recognized it.
Well, the interesting thing is that we did actually check off like all the important boxes, but like they were not the surface obvious ones that you typically hold in your mind.
What I'm loving, Shana, I'm loving how involved you are because you're really pulling this story out. And what I want to share with you is this final piece that is so powerful. I brought up that candle that I bought, and for 2 years while I was doing my sexual and self-exploration, having an amazing time, and I would go back to my journal and my bedside table and I would light this candle often, many, many times. And I would close my eyes and put out to the universe, please guide me to someone who can embrace all the love of my heart. About 2 a.m. after I met Chris and we had been dancing under the lasers and the fire, we were walking past the temple where I was going to take my husband's ashes in a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, "You're very interesting. You were an attorney, you speak French, you've been a business planner, but what's this business you owned for 10 years? And he said, I had a high-end candle company and we sold candles all over the world. He started to describe these candles and I froze and said, did you have one that said something about a soulmate?
Yeah, and he said, soulmate. It was our biggest seller.
It was your biggest seller? Oh my God.
Yeah.
My candle that I lit for 2 years, his company made the candle and he wrote those words. We lit that candle 4 years later at the same place by the river. We got married. And that is a powerful story of affirmation and the power of it.
Well, it's so interesting too. It's a powerful story of affirmation, and it's also a powerful story of, like I was saying, like Chris was not in the same place as you. So in a way, it feels like a powerful story of our hearts and our souls are working this kind of, I don't know, I would call it magic, but we could be scientific about it, but we could, that this kind of magic or synchronicity is happening in some ways, whether we are approving of it or not.
And that's the heart intelligence part. What was interesting is I didn't realize what I was tapping into until later, when I started through my book and through taking it to New York, I was introduced and became an inspirational speaker and putting on these retreats and workshops. And I realized that there's this actual scientific measure through Heart Math, where the heart intelligence, the electromagnetic energy of the heart is 5,000 times stronger than that of the brain.
Wow.
And so when you really tap into, like for years, back to Aristotle, there's sayings of listen to your heart, the heart knows the way. And that's what I did, is I tuned into, my head was telling me, don't trust, don't love, you're going to get hurt, someone's going to die, they're going to hurt you. But my heart knew that I wanted love. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Chris, I want to hear your perspective too, that what was your take on what is and was your take on all of this? Like, were you a believer in the heart intelligence before you met Lisa, or was this something new to you?
Well, I think I might not have had that vocabulary, but I think I was definitely. I already found my soulmate once, right? So I believed in a more powerful, deeper connection with somebody that was more purposeful and had some sort of deeper meaning and context in our own spiritual development and all that. So I was open to that. I just didn't think it was going to happen to me. It wasn't supposed to happen to me again. And so for me, it was all about willingness to surrender to what was obviously a powerful relationship that wanted to happen. And despite my, even efforts to try to, kind of stall it and get her out of it. And, it happened.
Well,
and so
surrender isn't a word that many men use. So I'm curious if you could say more about that too, like.
I will. And then we need to talk about appreciation.
I know we'll get to appreciation.
Runs out. Yeah. Well, it's simply put. I mean, Lisa was, like I said, was if we would have never met on a dating website, because she didn't check off any of the boxes, the basic, superficial boxes that I would have put down. Probably the same, with me for her. However, just in the course of not only did we have this amazing, meeting, which I was like, okay, so she bought one of my candles. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But, I was able to write it off in my mind, okay, it didn't have to be a miracle. But then, we got home and I found myself just calling her for advice. We'd been having these amazing conversations. She ended up referring me to interesting places where I was interviewing for jobs, and there was something about her presence in my life that just made it so much better, and the connection was so much easier. And I didn't want that to be true because A, I wasn't supposed to be in a relationship. I didn't want to be in a relationship, and B, if I was, it wasn't going to be with that she wasn't my ideal, right? And so I just kept denying and trying to get out of it. At the same time, I was getting more in it and calling her. I was really, screwed up in some ways by it. But finally one day, I just realized, Jesus, I gotta stop fighting this. I was literally fighting it, and I was losing. And so I texted her, and I just texted her 2 words. I said, I surrender. And I did. And I'm extremely happy now. And when I think about all the other ones that I dated that got away, or that I didn't pursue, that were supposedly more my type, I'm like, I wouldn't have been happy with any of them. But they were not my sole purpose. And you're always going to be happier in your soul purpose, in a soul purpose relationship.
I love it. Okay. So your story, is a really powerful one, and I think gives a lot of hope, and breaks down this idea of all right, we have to open our hearts first. I really like that piece. I think especially for men and women both, but for anyone who goes through heartbreak and, hears about The Secret and manifestation and, some of the things, Lisa, that you're talking about, which are beautiful, but also not everybody buys them or believes in them. So I love that you both came to this in different ways. And let's talk about appreciation. Let's talk about, how did appreciation come in before you were together and married, and how does it show up in your relationship now?
So I'm going to let Chris answer a little bit about that. But one of the things I want to say is that I completely get, because Heart of Manifestation was our first workshop retreats, and now we're doing Sacred Soulmate. And we've been really clear that the tools that we use are not all airy-fairy, manifesting, woo-woo. They're actual tried and true
Oh, I love it.
situation. Good. Yeah. So there's gratitude, is being very clear on what you want. I mean, I'm not going to give away our whole program here, but
give us a couple of
steps.
points so that we can get like where it's not woo woo and all out there.
Yeah. So first, clarity of what you're really wanting, like you mentioned, and I know Chris is chomping at the bit wanting to say something, so I'll be quick here. But one of the things that we do is we create a list. And so you're very clear. And this is not just 10 things or 20 things. We actually come up with 100 things that you're looking for to experience in a soulmate relationship. Now, interestingly enough, even though Chris was this tall, thin vegetarian, and I'm not a vegetarian, I found my list 2 years after we were together, about number 89, where I was really pushing and stretching. Okay, I want to travel here. I want this sexually, intelligently, whatever, relationship. One of the things said, it'd be great if he speaks French. Huh. I look over at him when I see this list. Chris speaks fluent French. Okay, so that's just an idea. I mean, that's just one of a tangible thing where you're really stretching your mind and your heart to really be clear. Too many people think they know exactly what they want, but they don't really know until you really start taking it down and breaking it down. We spend so much time in business and raising kids or financial that we don't spend that time to really break down what it is you're truly looking for in a soulmate.
Well, right. I think a lot of people don't even myself, I'm thinking, there's a part of me, especially after divorce, that got to a place at one point of like, well, maybe I shouldn't be asking for so much, or maybe none of this, maybe some of the things are possible, but others, I just don't even want to go there anymore. So I think it's great, that practice of helping people come back to, what do you really want? If you really could have it, what would it be? Chris, what were you
should, yeah. And you should, Shana.
Yeah.
Definitely. Go ahead, love.
Well, I just want to talk about gratitude appreciation before we run out of time. So you had asked, how do these things play a role before and after? And what we teach people is that, before your relationship, when you're single, you're looking or whatever, gratitude appreciation are fundamental, because you need to be in a place, you need to be complete and whole as a person. You have to be in a place where you don't need anyone else to complete you. Mm-hmm. Because when you are completely satisfied in who you are and who your life, when you are completely grateful for everything you have, when you are just feeling blessed in every moment, and you don't need another damn thing, that's how you create this sort of gravitational spiritual pull that sucks in another soulmate who's in that same place. And that's how I see it. And that's the party everybody wants to show up to. Nobody wants to be with somebody who's like kind of looking but not like really sure and not complete, and wanting this and needing that, still working on this.
So that is a pretty high bar to be like complete and whole in yourself.
And you might not be totally there. I mean, this is like a destination we're all working to, ultimately in our lives, and we might never get there. But you need to reach the next level in your spiritual growth and development. To bring what?
Like, how could you clarify that so someone would know? Oh, I'm there, or I'm not there.
Well, I can tell you for myself that I've had two very powerful, deep soul connection relationships that ended in marriage in my life, or resulted in marriage. And both cases was at the point where I had finally just decided, that's it, I'm done. I'm not looking anymore. I'm whole and complete in myself. If I never meet another woman, I'll be fine. Uh-huh. So I don't know how to tell you how to get to that point, except to, have a lot of relationships and work on yourself and have a spiritual practice. But that was the space I was in when I pulled in, some very, very powerful, special people in my life.
Well, it sounds like you were a little defeated, but also there's both things. Like,
it actually wasn't defeated. It was more like a sense of what's the word? Like like completeness, and like realizing I was never going to find satisfaction externally. And finally, it just was, at peace is really what it was.
Okay, so you were more at peace. It wasn't more like a defensive
No,
focus.
no, it wasn't a fuck this. It was like, you know what? Why am I just chasing? I feel like I'm just running on a treadmill here.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Wasting my life energy and my time on people that, are relationships that are going nowhere. You know, and I just need to just be complete and at peace with where I'm at and be content. And that's what happens.
Great. Lisa.
So Shana, yeah, I was going to say that I can answer that question with another answer that I think speaks when you were asking a question maybe more to the feminine side, and that doesn't mean necessarily man and woman, but we each have our feminine and masculine side. And what happened with me in the place that I was at when I went to Burning Man, to really honor the change. It had been 8 years since my husband passed. On a cellular level, your body is completely a whole new set of cells, and I felt that. I knew that I had grown into this wiser, stronger woman. And I actually remember talking to a therapist, because I went through a lot of therapy with all of the work that I had gone through with healing. And I remember saying, I'm really okay by myself. I feel strong, independent. I'm happy in my life, but I still feel this part missing. I know I want somebody in my life. And I keep hearing everyone saying you have to be okay being alone. And the powerful words that were said to me, and this stands still to this moment, is she said, that's okay. What you're saying is that you have a preference. You have a preference to be in a relationship and have a soulmate relationship. And that's okay. That doesn't take away that you're not whole on your own. You have a strong preference.
I love it.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that. And that's where I was. In Chris's case, I would say he didn't have that preference. But I do want to reiterate that when he kept trying to not be in a relationship, I never once pushed him. I never felt I needed to push him, because there was this energetic feeling that was so right between the two of us that I just kind of surrendered myself and let it just happen.
Because a lot of men don't have that experience, that women are not pushing them. So this might be a little unusual for our listeners, but I'm curious how appreciation came in there, or even from your side, Chris, like, was there anything you asked for or made clear as you were going through this process that helped Lisa then stay connected to you?
No, I can't think of anything. She just sat back and let me unfold on my own journey. Trusted in the process.
As a good woman.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, what I can say, and he doesn't know this, but I've told him many times, I have never felt, and I was very appreciated by my first husband, but when you go through loss and grief and love, both of us have such deep gratitude. Every single day, we appreciate each other in gratitude in so many ways. Wow. I have never felt so appreciated. And even when I was aware, because he even told me, I don't want a relationship. And I said, well, we're not in a relationship. And he said, yes, we are. And I go, no, we're not. But yet he would tell me, what an amazing woman I was, and how wise I was. And
so he was bringing appreciation from the very beginning, even though
from the beginning
about what he wanted.
Yes. Yeah. And that was something that made me feel seen for who I was and who I'd worked so hard to be. Yeah. And that goes back to the root of appreciation. I mean, Chris can touch on some of your listeners maybe in long-term marriages, where maybe some of the, when we work with Sacred Soulmate Coaching, we touch on more passion, intimacy, and love than you've ever experienced with the tools that we teach. And so, Chris, you can talk about maybe telling a little bit about appreciation and gratitude and how that transfers over to bedroom. We had talked about that.
Yeah, I can touch on that.
Whether you're single or in a relationship.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, but
but that's okay. Well, this is a good one. Let's do a quick piece on this.
Well, it's really simple. From a male perspective, I think your partner needs to. I mean, if you want to really spice it up in the bedroom, if you want to have great, intimate, deep, sex, you can have that in the first few months of your relationship or even the first year of your relationship because it's all new. You've got those new hormones and pheromones and stuff kicking out and everything. It's great, you know. But once that newness wears off, which it will, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, when you're with somebody for 2, 3, 5, 10, 15 years, it's not new anymore. So what keeps it interesting and what keeps it great, what keeps it connected, what keeps it from just ending up this, you know, humdrum routine, same old, same old.
Great
and
question.
to really, you know, one tool is to really make sure that your woman feels appreciated, that she doesn't feel taken for granted. The example I always love to give is, you know, when you first in a relationship and your woman, you know, makes you a sandwich for lunch. And you're like, oh my God, honey, you made me a sandwich? That's so great. I can't remember the last time somebody made me a sandwich. You know, I was making my own food. Like, oh, is that a pickle on there? You slice that? And like, how'd you know I like avocado? Oh, thank you so much, right? Okay, now fast forward, you know, 7 years. Hey, what's for lunch?
Where's my sandwich?
Where's my sandwich? You know, hey.
You forgot the pickle. You forgot the pickle.
Is this white bread? Did we have any whole wheat bread? You know, so it's like stop taking your love for granted. You know, remember to treat her like you know, like appreciate her the way you did when, you know, things were brand new. And if you can go back to that, because she's still doing wonderful things, she's still busting her butt all day. The more appreciated, you know, your partner feels, you know, the more at peace in her heart and soul she is, you know, the other organs will also respond. and
so
you know,
wise.
More alive experience in the bedroom because, you know, you're connecting on a deeper level. And, you know, we like to say in Tantra, you know, that the number one sex organ in the human body is the brain. Okay? Because think about it, you know, if your brain is pissed off at your partner, frustrated with your partner, not feeling appreciated with your partner, you know, depressed about, you know, thinking about other things, you know, how good is sex going to be?
Right. You're not excited.
Is it even going to happen? You know, so you've got to, you know, if you want to, you know, the best foreplay is in the brain.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you're getting to this too, and how important it is. And you know, women, our bodies do tend to open more after our hearts are open or after we feel appreciated, and men too. I think appreciation is one of the biggest things that men tell me they miss out on when their relationships get, you know, into the long term and they feel nagged or they feel unappreciated and that it just doesn't go well on either side when people aren't appreciated. So well, okay, and
you've got to make that a practice. It has to be a conscious practice in your relationship.
That's what I was going to ask, right? So how do you make it a practice for you guys?
By doing it. Honey, thanks so much. Oh, I see you did all that laundry. Thank you so much for doing that. Can I carry it upstairs for you? You know,
so even the things that other people would say, actually, and this happened to me with my ex-husband, where I would thank him for things. And I remember my sister once being like, why are you thanking him for that? That's just normal. And I was like, well, in my mind, even just normal actually gets to be appreciated.
Absolutely. That's all we have is the normal things. You know, I'm not going to wait, you know, every 4 months for you to do something extraordinary, you know. I mean, I hope you do once in a while, but we can't wait for that. We have to be grateful for the things that if he had just come into your house that day and you just met him and he did all your laundry and it was sitting there, you'd be ecstatic, right? Yeah. So how come after 10 years you come and he did all the laundry and you're like, oh, great, that's normal. You know, no, don't be that. Be ecstatic. You've got somebody's doing your freaking laundry for you. Yeah. You know, that's still awesome. You know, you have somebody to have dinner with and drink wine with and have conversation with and watch movies with. Thank God for that. How long did it take to get to that point? You know, how many bad dates did I have to go on before I had somebody I actually still like after 10 years? So let's celebrate that. And let's treat it for what it is. You know, let's treat it for the amazing, wonderful thing it is, because it's when you become humdrum and everything becomes normal and you take it for granted, that's when, you know, the appreciation goes down, the satisfaction goes down, the sex goes down, it all goes down.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, all right, in our last couple minutes, I want you to first tell us where everybody can find you, and then I want to hear each of your last quick one thing you want to leave listeners with.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll fill in where they can find us. So we're really excited because Sacred Soulmates, which is www.sacredsoulmates.com, is our website. And what we specialize in is exotic retreats. We have one coming up in the spring, April 3rd through the 7th in Todos Santos, Mexico, which is a natural vortex and just this amazing, wonderful little artsy town. And we actually have both Chris and I coaching along with 2 other coaches. We have a somatic tantra and relationship sexual coach, Amy Baldwin, who is just an amazing coach. And then another coach, Cher, who works on releasing blocks and subconscious blocks that really get in the way of doing this deep work that allows you to have these connections and pull in connections. So it's for both singles and couples. And information on the retreat is on our website. We do coaching also, group coaching and individual coaching. And we would love for you to check out our website. We are offering to your listeners $200 off of our package for that retreat. And there's there's yoga in the morning and meditation. And Chris, who is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, will be teaching introduction to that. We have classes during the day, workshop, but we leave free time to really enjoy the ocean and the pool and really immerse yourself. Yeah, so it's going to be a really wonderful vacation, and check it out on our website. And we'd love to chat with you if you'd like to reach out to us and let you know more about our program.
Thank you. All right, Chris, and I know you have a hard stop, so let's give you, 30 seconds to a minute, and then Lisa, you can do 30 seconds to a minute, and then we'll complete.
Yeah.
Just, appreciation, gratitude, surrender to what the universe brings you, accept your path, and come hang out with like-minded people, because a relationship is, it's just like your car, you spend a lot of time making sure your brakes are, done, and your oil's been changed, and your alignment. You take care of your car more than you do your relationship. And, what's more important, really? Put some energy into your relationship, take care of that too, because it's not going to just run forever, it needs maintenance. It needs a tune-up. It needs fresh can of gas. Sometimes it needs some touch-up paint. And if you just ignore it, you're going to have a beat up, old, broken down buggy, and nobody wants that.
That's the favorite thing I've heard in a long time, like likening relationship to a car. It's so true. And I love that you brought it into that perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
One last thing you want to leave listeners with?
So what I'm going to speak to is a comment that you said, Shana, and that is, too many people out there, men and women, start to think, oh, maybe I'm wanting too much. Maybe I can't really have this person that I want. And I say, no. I'm living proof of, if you have a strong enough belief and you really go deep into your heart and you're very clear on what it is you're wanting, and thoughts are power. And we talked much about this. It is possible. And when you're saying, no, it's not going to happen, that's the energy that you're sending out. Yeah. And it's just like waking up one day. It's like waking up one day and saying, I'm just going to have another shitty day because of whatever. Well, you're going to have a shitty day. Idea
what's going to happen. Yeah.
Right.
So beautiful. So you're leaving us with, okay, it can happen. Keep believing. Don't give up. This is actually really possible.
It is possible, and use the tools, even the tools we just talked about, and there are others we have to teach, but don't give up and know it can happen. Believe in it.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much both of you for here today and for sharing your story and your wisdom. I appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Thank you so much, Shana.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope it gives you a sense of what's possible and how good your life can be. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe to Man Alive and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/manalive to get outtakes, videos, and raw footage I only share there. These are some of the most interesting parts of these expert conversations. You can also grab your copy of The Unknown Power to accelerate your career and solidify your confidence with women, because the two are related, and I know you don't have to settle for one or the other. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.